Hey, welcome to Monkey Time. My name's Todd. How are you doing? Are you doing all right? You surviving the great frost? Let's go ahead and can we show the image here in a second? We got to talk about why, whenever we get a big cold spell or lots of cold weather, lots of snow along the East Coast, we always have to remind people that this is exactly what many, not all, but many of the global warming models, or global climate change, Carol, many of the global warming models, we talked about this last year, we talked about it the year before, models predict increased heat in the system results in colder temperatures in North America and lots more snow along the East Coast of the United States. We've talked about this every year, and every year you still get people on your Facebook feed, oh, what's this say about global warming? Again, they're trying to rebrand global warming as global climate change. What do we call it, Carol? Global weirding. That's what happens when you put more energy into the system. You disrupt the patterns everyone's used to. Can we cut over to this picture, Carol? This is my high-class drawing. You can see this is California, there's Florida, there's the United States. This explains, oh, can you put up number 3 when you get a chance? This explains exactly what, well, it's a good theory. It's the National Oceanic and Aeronautic Administration. What is that, Ed? NOAA. If you go to my Twitter feed, I link to the article from NOAA.gov, the National Oceanic and Aeronautic Administrative Weather People Organization that your taxes pay for. Yeah, there's the Twitter page. Yeah, let's go back to number 3 here. Here's what's happening normally. You always get this mass of cold Arctic air during this time of year. Actually, there's always cold Arctic air there. During this time of year, what usually happens, and this is a gross oversimplification, what usually happens is you get this normal wind pattern that blows through, basically, right? This normal wind pattern blows through and dumps off a lot of that cold Arctic air, so it doesn't build up and spill. The NOAA page people, or one scientist said, like molasses. When the Arctic air builds up and up and up and up, it gets thick and heavy and then just spills like molasses down into the lower United States. Like molasses, monkeys. So this normal wind usually takes off enough of that you don't get this buildup and it spills down. But what's happening now is there is a pocket off the coast of Alaska, and this is, again, this is a gross oversimplification. There are many, many, many factors. It's all chaos theory and guesswork, Carol, and it's all chaos and complexity, really. But this is what the current theory is. There's definitely true. We've seen 7 degrees warmer than usual waters off the coast of Alaska. The heat from that warmer than usual water off the coast of Alaska rises into the atmosphere and creates a high pressure ridge right here. So the normal wind that rushes across the northern part of our continent and dumps off a bunch of this colder Arctic air is being blocked by what? Warmer than usual temperatures in the air caused by warmer than usual water off the coast of Alaska in areas where it's usually 7 degrees colder. Are you getting that? So the normal wind that would brush off this Arctic air and not allow it to build up and spill over into Atlanta for like molasses, as that one scientist said, that normal wind is being blocked by a high pressure ridge off the coast of Alaska. Again, this is a gross oversimplification, but it's fairly accurate as simplifications go. So this is not inconsistent with global warming. One of the reasons we're seeing these warmer than usual water temperatures in the Arctic, and it's happening over here too, near to the east of Greenland, off the coast of Norway in the Barents Sea. It's happening over there too. But one of the things that we're seeing, excuse me, I'm getting rid of this, the phlegm left over. The leftover phlegm is always the worst. It lingers. The lingering leftover phlegm. There you go. That's a pleasant thought. What you're seeing is the reason that we're seeing warmer than usual water temperatures is that over the summer, we lost so much Arctic ice. In fact, there were areas that were not covered with Arctic ice that usually are. So of course, when that happens, the temperature stays warmer through the summer, and then when winter comes, you still get warmer than usual temperatures up there, and that creates this ridge that is blocking the wind from dumping off this Arctic air, so it builds up and up and up and spills down into the United States. You can come back to me, Carol, if you don't mind. Thank you. How was that? That's very clear, right? So it's consistent. The colder than usual polar vortex temperatures, the polar vortex, well, it means different things at different times depending on who you're reading, but that normal wind coming across could not dump off some of that Arctic air, and so it built up and spilled over like molasses into Ohio, into Tennessee, into North Carolina, Virginia, all the way down to Atlanta. We're seeing Arctic temperatures, sub-freezing temperatures. It'll be gone here in a little bit, but I just want to make that point. It is consistent with warmer than usual temperatures in the Arctic at this time of year, and with the problems we're seeing with losing the sea ice up in the Arctic, losing an Arctic ice. It's consistent. It's also one of the reasons we're seeing a lot of drought in California right now. It's all complex and linked, but anyway, so this colder spell that we're seeing is actually part of the global climate change that is, according to these theories, and this is the best science we've got, and if you like science for curing cancer and, you know, making your contact lenses work and all that stuff, you use the same methods with the data for weather and climate, and what you see is a fairly consistent pattern. The warming is going to cause weirdness all over the planet, and what we're seeing right now is actually perfectly consistent with the current theories about global warming or global climate change. All right. I just wanted to make that clear, because you know how it is when every time it gets cold or a lot of snow, you get Congress people and people in your Facebook feed that you really don't want in your Facebook feed saying things like, global warming. You know, it's like, no, you're being stupid. And I just am happy to point out how they're being stupid. Should we talk about Jesus Huerta for a second, Carol? Jesus Huerta was the 10th grader who in the backseat of a Durham police car on November 19th somehow got shot in the head. The Durham police will be releasing their report this week. They still haven't released their report yet, Carol, but you know what they did release?
A smear campaign.
They released, Carol says, a smear campaign. Isn't it funny how we still haven't gotten the Durham cops a full report, but we do now know that in his backpack, Jesus Huerta's backpack, there were some electronics, they say, allegedly, there are some electronics that were linked to a couple of burglaries, or one burglary, in his neighborhood. Now, how is this relevant to the deeper question, how did this guy die? It's not. It's not relevant. He wasn't struggling, he wasn't fighting, you know, it's a character assassination. They haven't even released their own report about how a guy with his hands handcuffed behind his back managed to find a gun that he didn't have, according to everyone who knew him, or the cop didn't find, right? Maybe he had one, the cop didn't search and didn't find it, or was lying around in the police car. Those are the only three options, right, Carol? The kid had it smuggled on him, had a gun with him, right? And the cop didn't search and didn't find it, which is unconscionable and, you know, and definitely wrong, bad policing. We can say that much. You know, it's a mistake. We're allowed to say police make mistakes, right? Yeah, okay. If that's true, that would be a mistake. Then they're not searching. Or, you know, it was in the cushions and the kid nosing around in the back of the police car managed to find it and shot himself in the head with his hands cuffed behind his back. Or the police officer shot him, right? You know, which doesn't seem to be likely. But we're finding all this, at this point it doesn't, we're finding all this stuff designed to smear, to smear Jesus Huerta, the stuff about the stolen goods in his backpack, nothing to do with what he was stopped for, right? Nothing to do with how, you know, the deeper questions about how he died. And then we're also finding little bits of evidence that the police are releasing that bolster their side of the story, but without releasing the full information, the full report, without giving the family the decency of the full report. They're saying things like, well, he had gloves on and they have powder residue. Well, why are they releasing dribs and drabs of things that bolster their side of the story instead of just releasing the full report? And if they can't release the full report yet, then they shouldn't be releasing these other dribs and drabs. They're just designed to smear the kid, the stuff about the stolen goods. We'll see. Carol, what they say is they had the backpack, And they never searched it until last week. He died on November 19th. The backpack was taken into evidence, and then the officer in charge suddenly decided, oh, I better get a warrant and search that backpack because for the cell phone that might be in there or that was in there, so that we could, look through the cell phone contacts and search that because there might be evidence of some kind of criminal act.
Why was he originally stopped?
His family asked them to pick him up. He ran away from home. His family asked the cops to pick him up. Carol's like, why was he originally stopped? Right? And then he was arrested when there was an outstanding warrant for him. Not for burglary, not for anything else. I forget what was the outstanding warrant for? Somebody give me a call and feel free to call and let me know. But I will, here we go. Huerta had stolen goods, police say. Do you see that in the NNO yesterday? We still haven't gotten the police's version of how this kid shot himself in the head with his hands cuffed behind his back, but they're releasing this kind of information. Again, what we need to know is the angle of entry of the bullet wound, right? We need to know that. If that's not in the police report, then the police are covering something up, clearly. That's important information for the community to know at this point. The family needs to know that. We also, need to know that Chief Lopez, said back last year that this is unusual, it's not common, but these kinds of things have been known to happen in other jurisdictions. Well, let's see. What are those cases, Chief Lopez, right? Okay. All right. So it's going to come out this week, they say. So let's see what happens tomorrow or Friday and see what the Durham Police Report says. See what unanswered questions what questions they still haven't answered. I'm sure there will be some. In fact, I really would be surprised if the Durham Police Report mentions the angle of entry of the bullet wound. I will be surprised, Carol, pleasantly, but I will be pleasantly surprised if the police actually bother to give us that important information. I think they're going to be withholding as much as possible. Their lawyers are going to tell them, don't give the family lawyers too much information because they know a lawsuit is coming, right? Okay. You got to watch out for these little smear things. And the media just love it. Oh, we'll take it. We'll run with it. You haven't given us the police report yet. We're starved for something, so we'll run with this, right? It's really, really sad. So last week they got the warrant to search his backpack, and last week they first find, they say, these pieces of evidence that he was involved in a burglary in his neighborhood. Last week. They've had his backpack for how long? He was going to search his cell phone because pictures and other digital evidence may be contained that link a suspect to a crime. I don't know about you, but that seems to have very little to do with Jesus Huerta's death. So keep your eye on the ball. Let's keep our eye on the ball here. Okay, say it again.
What's next?
Oh, number 5, if you don't mind. And then we'll do did I do something about Snapchat? Yeah, okay, we'll do that next. Don't forget that, remember the Moral Monday protests, how great those were, how inspirational, how awesome. Saturday, February 8th. They're meeting at Shaw at 10 or 10:30 in the morning, 9:30 in the morning, and then starting at 10:30, the protesters are going to march down to the legislative building and have a rally on Saturday, February 8th, right? The Moral March, they're calling it, the Moral March. Can we put up number 6 real fast, Carol? Yeah. This has been, my neighborhood email list has been hopping about this, and I live in a neighborhood where, well, I mean, I'm in a poor section of the neighborhood, but the neighborhood has a lot of wealthy upper middle class people in it as well, and a lot of lawyers and things. So one neighbor posted that these ribbons go up around a bunch of trees near their property, not quite all contained in the easement. And Duke Energy left a note on their door saying, we're going to come and cut down all these trees. And it looks shocking to them. So a lot of people are organizing, and they're talking with lawyers, and they're talking with other folks. In the past, in Greensboro, my neighbors have found out, Duke has been overzealous in cutting down trees. You know, there's a legitimate interest for Duke here, right, Carol? Power lines, right? Yeah. They what? We all like our electricity. Yeah, nobody's saying that there doesn't need to be trimming or anything, but what seems to have happened in Greensboro is that Duke got very zealous And Greensboro actually passed a law modifying how Duke Energy had to behave when cutting down trees or trimming trees. In other words, things, I mean, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but people are saying, you know, trim them as much as possible instead of cutting them down just because it's easy, you know, that kind of stuff. Progress used to just do a lot of trimming, and Duke hasn't trimmed in our neighborhood in a while, apparently, so now they're coming in, and their first move was to just cut all these. We're going to cut all these. And so people are fighting back. Now, like I said, I live, you know, we've got government-subsidized housing a block this way and $750,000 homes block this way, and I'm in a little brick quadruplex, Carol, with 4 apartments, you know? So we're like, you know, lower middle class, right in the middle of well, more lower middle class probably, and upper class. So anyway, my point is, if you don't happen to live in a neighborhood where you've got high-powered lawyers who happen to own the property where these easements are, and Duke's coming in to try to just slaughter a bunch of trees that may be overzealous. Again, I'm not saying there doesn't need to be some trimming regularly and routinely, or even some removal in rare cases. But if you don't live in a neighborhood where you've got organized people fighting back immediately and quickly, who have also in the past donated to city council members, this is key, Carol, so that when you call the city council members or the mayor, you actually get them on the phone. That's my problem, Carol, when I leave messages for Nancy McFarland. Oh, whoops. Who is that? What? Check the financial, you know, I never got a call back. But, you know, to their credit, Mary Ann Baldwin and Russ Stevenson were very helpful the last time I needed city council people involved in my life, which you don't want to have happen too often. But nobody from Nancy McFarland's office returned a call. I will never forget that. I will never forget that. Emails, calls, nothing. Not even a, hey, we're aware of the problem, let me know if Mary Ann and Russ don't solve it, you know. It was very, not very good. Not very endearing, I'll just put it that way. And you want your politicians to endear themselves to you, don't you? Anyway, long story short, I suggest that if you're in a neighborhood where Duke Energy has put these little ribbons up around trees that they're going to cut down and put signs up, you can fight back. That's my only point, Carol. Does that make sense? You can fight back, even if you're not highly educated, upscale lawyer types like the people in, you know, a few blocks from me, right? Who immediately jumped on this and got city council people involved, you know, all that. You can fight back. Do not let Duke Energy be overzealous. We all understand there's trimming has to be done. Some trees might need to be removed. But their idea is they hire an arborist company, and their idea, a lot of times, is just cut them all down. It could be a future problem, cut it all down, without necessarily paying close attention to exactly where the easements are and whether or not a tree could be saved, which is important to you, even if you're not a property owner. Trees are valuable to a neighborhood, right? So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. If you want more information, you can get to me at Twitter, or can you put up my email address, Carol? Or yeah, actually, you can contact me through Twitter, or do I have an email address up? Yeah, there it is, todd@monkeytime.org. You can email me, and I will forward you the information that's been filtering to me through my neighborhood email list about how people are fighting back. So there are things you can do if Duke Energy decides that they're just going to clear cut a bunch of trees without paying close attention to whether any of those trees can be saved. Make sense? All right. I think that's an important public service announcement. You have rights, and you can fight back. And Duke Energy has rights too, but we need to make sure that they don't overstep their rights. And in the past, in Greensboro, Duke Energy's actually filed a lawsuit to overturn this new ordinance, but Greensboro had to pass a law correcting some of Duke's overzealous tree cutting. That's worth keeping in mind when Duke comes to your neighborhood here in Raleigh and says, oh, all these trees need to go. All right. Which one? Oh, Snapchat. Oh, you little monkeys. So there was a spate of articles last week, Carol, about how you know, Facebook's only for older people now. I mean, it's been going on for a while, and how teens are leaving Facebook. There was another spate of articles about this. And it's funny because my nieces, when I was up in Ohio for Christmas, my niece's boyfriend, we were talking about online stuff. And he was just saying, man, nobody I know uses Facebook anymore. And I was like, oh, really? Why? He's like, because you know, once your mom gets on it, forget it. You know, and it's true. That's what, who wants that, right? Mom, friend, yeah, I'll friend you, mom. You know, I mean, this is old news, right? Okay. So now everybody's, a lot of kids are going to Snapchat because they think that Snapchat lets you delete all those nude selfie pictures you've been taking, right? Snapchat is run by people that I find unseemly, Carol. The more you look into the people behind Snapchat, the more you realize that they're just cashing in, and they're the flavor of the month, and they are not interested in your privacy. They are selling an illusion of privacy to people whose only experience of online privacy has been Facebook, which is a horrible baseline, right? So just because Snapchat lets you quickly and easily delete a photo, which Facebook doesn't, right? Because Facebook wants to collect everything. They're like the NSA of online social services. Collect it all and gather it all. We won't worry about it later. When for Facebook, it's we'll monetize it later. But Snapchat says they let you do that. But Carol, the Google, I don't know much about apps and everything. No, for all this stuff about the connected generation, Carol, most of you teenagers don't know jack about how this stuff works either. Oh, we're so connected, we're so connected. No, you're online a lot, but you're not really. Some of you are, but most teenagers who spend all of their lives online now, most of their lives online now, very few of them know how any of this stuff works. The gears, you open the box, you look in it, or even you just look at the apps. How do those work? What's happening? What are the settings? What are the defaults? All that stuff. Anyway, so I'm just saying, I'm like that too. And I have less of an excuse because I've been online for longer than you. but those photos are not deleted, right? Your little Android app or whatever, Google's little archive there, Google's still got it, right? You delete it so you can't see it, none of your Snapchat little buddies can see it, but it's still there. That's just from reading, that's my understanding. Right? So there's Snapchat, that's just one of the ways that Snapchat is selling this illusion of control over your own privacy, right? And people are flocking to it in droves, and the only thing Snapchat sees when they get you using their app, the only thing they see is dollars. That's all you are to them. And they just don't seem like very nice people when you look at who's behind Snapchat. They're just flavor of the month, young tech upstarts, right? With dollar signs in their eyes. They think they've got, they're going to try to ride this wave as long as possible before the bubble bursts and people realize, there's not really a whole lot of money to be made here, like everything else. And actually, you could say that same thing about Twitter, Carol, couldn't you? How are they making any money? Oh, right, Twitter's not making any money. Right, there's no revenue for coming into Twitter, but it's valued at $1,800 billion. Okay. Couple of things. Ricky Diaz, the guy at the Department of Health and Human Services, is a 24-year-old who got one of two young guns who worked on Pat McCrory's campaign. He quit today. Did you see that? It was in the paper. He quit. He was making $85,000 a year. And Carol, this is good that he quit because he's horrible. He was the spokesperson. He quit to go join some conservative, I don't know, foundation group, whatever. You know how they all kind of take care of each other. But they're patting him on the back for suckling at the teat, the government teat, for as well and as nicely as he did. $85,000. He didn't even stay there a year, Carol. He didn't even stay there a year, but he sure made his monthly salary of, $85,000 a year. Absolutely crazy. And the Charlotte Observer had a really good editorial, I believe it was yesterday, about McCrory defending the Department of Health and Human Services. Oh, you guys are just after me, that kind of bullcrap that he's pulling, and just saying that these are all the problems from 10 years worth of neglect at the Department of Health and Human Services. And it's like, you guys sent out 50,000 cards with kids' personal private information to the wrong people. That's not something that happened 10 years ago under Mike Easley, right? So the Charlotte Observer, and if you go, I'll put it up. I didn't get a chance before I left this afternoon. I'll put it up on my Twitter feed. The Charlotte Observer had a really nice editorial just pointing out that all this does, this excuses, because clearly McCrory doesn't want to even acknowledge any error. It shows a real lack of confidence. It really shows how weak and tentative McCrory is as governor, that he can't even say, oh, we are so sorry, that was a horrible mistake.
I just did the math of what a monthly salary for $85,000
What was Ricky Diaz's monthly salary?
$7,083.
$7,083 a month he made. Couldn't even last a year. Couldn't even last $85,000 to be the spokesperson for a ridiculously dysfunctional organization. But McCrory's inability to admit that there was a mistake there, the Charlotte Observer points out, only enables the people in that organization to not admit that they've made mistakes. He's really a dysfunctional governor. It's really kind of horrible to watch. Anyway, we'll see you at the protest on Saturday, February 8th. Take care of each other. And remember, global weirding is the phrase.